Okay, so the next thing, there's a few more things I want to talk about in this preparation stage before we record. Let me give a little bit of thought and context to um, how I go about thinking about and some advice about how I think about adding the programming. Um, I listen to contemporary records and hear the sounds that are being used and in the way they're being used, and sort of educate myself so that can kind of make those choices and direct the people that are helping me as well in what I'm looking for. And um, but the goal of, so I'm looking for synthy sounds. I'm looking for electronic sort of, sometimes, drum samples, electronic drum samples, especially when I know I'm going to be making an organic recording in addition to this. I I want to find textures and sounds that are not as organic, but they're contemporary. So, sometimes the sounds of like trap drums, or it's not in this song, but like there's a certain approach to the way a hi-hat is programmed in trap music or electronic music, and just being aware of those things. And if I want to take what is a little bit more of a traditional rock sound, I'm not saying this is not a modern rock song. It is done in this in record in a style that's a little bit more established, a little bit older. It's not as contemporary as some things that are going on in music. So I just kind of take that awareness of what other sounds are being used. And if we just were to make a simple gesture in this song of doing like a programmed hi-hat that was like an 808 or a 909 type of sound, with that type of a pattern, well, then that contextualizes this recording with that type of input and that thought as something that's maybe a little bit more contemporary, and it also shows that the artist's tastes, or the production taste, is influenced by more than just one particular genre of music. And so that's like it's a subtle, it can be a subtle or very overt way of showing influences, bending genres, and just kind of combining things, and putting new spins, a new spin on something. Um, so so I kind of listen and study what's going on, so that I can intuitively and creatively think about what it is how I'm looking to shift this. Now, with this particular song, most of what we have are synthy, sort of chimey bell like things that are supporting the main parts that Graham has already established as his production. So that leads me to the point of how I know, or what my approach is about how to add this type of programming to an existing track. What I look to do is reinforce certain melodies, some like the vocal, perhaps. Uh, double the vocal melody with like a keyboard, or it might be interesting to do it with some sort of piano, or whatnot, and put a lot of effects on it, so it just feels like it's just giving the vocal a different dimension. Or like how the example of the leading guitar in the instrumental is sort of backed up with some other guitar sounds. There's also, I didn't pull it up, but there's also a keyboard sound. There's a synth sound that is doing it. Here, I'll just play it for you. Now, it's not, like I said, it's not playing all the notes of the main part that is doubling it, because that would that could sound a little bit too messy, and it would take some of the definition and the strength away from the thing that's meant to be the loudest. But if we listen to that synth sound with Graham's leading guitar part, just kind of gives it a cool additional sound. And most of the time with these additions, these supportive additions, like let's listen to this mellotron choir that's going to be in the chorus. There's not a lot of movement in it. It's playing the progression, and it's just something that's sort of sustaining. So it's going to add color and texture and sort of width to what's already going on, to the things that should be and will be the most important in the balance. Okay, so the difference in the song, we're just listening to that mix of the original version of the song, and we'll add this choir to it. It doesn't radically change it, but it does give it a different feel, and it does give it a bit of atmosphere that didn't exist. And it's not that it takes the rock away, but it indicates just different tastes in production, and it indicates that the genre is not necessarily as rock. It kind of makes it a little more contemporary, maybe a little bit more mainstream. I don't know what the right term is, but to me it helps change the context of it a little bit. And that's what I'm doing as a producer. I'm looking to make something that is has some broad appeal to it. You always have to honor the song and the artist's intention, but I think it's fun for me to be able to think about hearing this specific song in more than one place. Maybe just not for a rock audience, but a lot of different audiences. So here's a high 808 toms with a lot of reverb on them. And what's it doing? It's playing some of the leading melody. So it's kind of a nice addition. So, like the vocal and the guitars are sort of playing in unison and just adding this one sound. Gives it a little bit of a contemporary feel and texture to it. So let's move on and talk about the continuing of setting this up and some ideas I have that I've sort of built into this. I'm gonna play the mix again real quick. I was on the inside of a murderous mob. We stood up for what's right, at least. So in the second verse, the electric guitars go away, and there is this electric piano. My thought is, I think for the first verse, I'd like to have the guitars go away. So let's sort of see what that's like. I'll get back to the second verse, why I showed you the electric piano. But so in the second verse, the guitars go away and it breaks down, and there's electric piano featured. My goal for this song is to keep it rock, but then also interject some contemporary elements into it. And, like we talked about before, when I played just the programming tracks and the vocal, it sounded a little bit more like a remix, right? So my thought is, okay, in this first verse, let's mute out these guitars. It's almost like, let's take a similar approach in verse 1 that what happened in verse 2. Okay, we're going to mute out these guitars in verse 1 and just sort of see the change there. Okay, I think that's cool, but I'm noticing now that as I'm trying to bring the track down a little bit, my snare samples seem a bit heavy-handed. So I'm going to mute those. Okay, now there's some flamming that's going on between the existing drums and the samples that have gone in, and at some point I'm going to have to decide how to kind of make those things agree. I don't yet know. I'm creating a vision, and I'm creating an opportunity, and I'm doing some early arranging so that these ideas are presentable. We may change the way the drums are playing in the first verse. The drums may play the intro, and then this might go away. These drums might go away here. Or they might play now. What we have for the kick drums is a very simple pattern. It's too simple. So if we want to sort of make a shift where we bring things down for the first verse a little bit more, maybe the drum pattern would change here. These are like early ideas, just kind of thinking through some stuff, sharing it with you, and this is like part of the process. I'm trying to create an opportunity and have some things to be able in the moment to kind of to get to what could be an exciting direction and place for the song. For now, we're just going to say that we're just going to leave the drums in here as they are. So my goal is to get the electric guitars out of the first verse so that we have this bigger rock intro. I think, like, all right, these keyboards might be a little loud. Maybe this vocal chop, it's too early for it. So my goal is we get to this first verse. And we're hearing a little bit more of the programming come through. My feeling would be that we maybe have some cleaner electric guitars in the first verse, and then when we get to the second verse, I like the idea of not having this electric piano. Excuse me. Having these keyboards be the programming kind of be more part of the second verse to sort of raise the stakes a little bit, have a little bit more going on, and just sort of change the context of it. I feel like we're missing and lacking these guitars, a guitar part in verse 2. So let's just fly these over here and just see what happens if we put them here and turn them on. This is the start of a discussion. I'm sharing some of the ideas I have with you, and then we have to figure out, like, does that even appeal to the artist to take out the guitars in the first verse? And if we do that, what's got to change to make it feel appropriate and feel successful. My goal will be to simplify the first verse in some way so that the programming and the more contemporary sounds can be shown early in the song. Because certainly when we get to the chorus and the instrumental part and the outro of the song, where the song is bigger, I definitely want the song to stay and feel rock. And then so the programming is going to kind of be underneath that and supporting it. But I've showed the listener early on in the song that there's more dimension to it than just it being a rock song. So those are going to be some of the things that I'm going to be looking to do. It would, at this point, my thinking is that we're going to come up with new electric guitar parts that don't exist yet in the song. Might want to do something a bit cleaner and a bit more simple for the first verse to give me a little bit of that feeling of the programming being shown, but I don't want it to be oversimplified, and I don't want it to be absent of maybe Graham's original intention. But I think an emptier vibe fits the feeling of the lyric, and then we get to the second verse. We'll just have to see what we come up with. Acoustic guitar may play. I mean, the acoustic guitar right now is just sort of that Graham had in the song. It's in the choruses, and what it's doing is it's just adding a little bit of texture and percussive feel to the chorus, and helping reinforce the guitars, just adding a little bit of extra weight and dimension to it, and that's fine. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. But maybe the first verse is a place to use an acoustic guitar, or the second verse, and add it into the arrangement where we're looking to sort of shrink the size of the song and sort of show some different dimensions. Personally, and I don't really. Personally, this electric piano that's in verse 2, I think that we can do something a little bit more interesting and contemporary sounding. So my thought would be to not use that and sort of replace it with. Maybe we already have the existing programming, or the existing programming gives us an idea of what we could do.